Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy to have you here. Whew, it has been a week. It's been so fun. Actually, it's been a couple of weeks. As you know, we had our Say Yes Summit last week. If you follow me on Instagram, I also had my summer solstice white party, which was dreamy and fabulous. I had 3 different sets of farm stay guests here. Amelia and I said goodbye to the last set and quickly put some things in a bag and got into the car to go to the airport. We are now in Switzerland. I am doing a wedding on Lake Geneva. It's all so fun. It's all so fabulous. You know, I am only available for what delights me. And I'm learning about this pendulum swing of when we say yes to ourselves, we know everybody wins, and that's all that we're about here. But what I'm learning in this season of my life that there are more things that delight me and more things to say yes to than there are hours in the day or can fit in my 2 hands or my calendar. So I am giving myself permission to pause. I am also saying it here for accountability because I don't want to feel overwhelmed with all the fabulousness that is my life. And sometimes I think that I am looking at each individual item, and that's an easy yes, but then I don't realize that all added together, it's too much. And yeah, I just wanted to say that here. I wanted to say that if you feel overwhelmed, I see you. I want to also say if you look at me and you wonder, oh my word, how does she do all that? I'm here to tell you that in this moment, it doesn't feel like she does all that very well. So I am holding space for myself. I am coming from a place of abundance, not lack. I know I'm not going to miss out on what's meant for me. You're not going to miss out on what's meant for you either. And that it is okay for us to say no to good things and save our yeses for the best. And I am saying that out loud and bringing you on that journey with me, really for accountability as well as permission for you as well. So that is that. I can't wait to tell you all about the wedding. It is actually tonight. So that's a good time. So come back on Friday, and that's on my intro will be all about that fabulous goodness. Okay, today's guest is, speaking of fabulous goodness, what a wonderful, amazing human. We have Ashley Spence with us today. She is an author, a public speaker, and a global activist. She is a victim advocate, the author of Silent Witness, and founder of DNA Justice Project, which is a nonprofit that focuses on educating the public and policymakers on the value of forensic DNA in the criminal justice system. At the age of 19, she was the victim of a home invasion attack that nearly took her life. For years, her attacker remained unknown. until DNA evidence brought him to justice, ensuring he would spend 137 and a half years in prison. She now testifies all over the country to support legislation that will maximize the use of forensic DNA and advanced DNA technology. She's worked globally to spark conversations on how to come together to put an end to sexual violence. She is inspired to do this work every day because of her incredible children and her strong belief that every victim deserves justice. Through the healing practices of herbal medicine and teachings of yoga, she has found that beautiful, although difficult, transformations can arise out of the deepest traumas. It is with great joy that I bring you this beautiful conversation with Ashley Spence. Ashley, I am so delighted to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for having me. I love your podcast. I love all the amazing and incredible women that you feature on it. So I'm the honored one to be here. So I
Oh,
really thank you so much.
well, thank you. It is a total love fest because I cannot get enough of this. I am not the same woman at the beginning of recording day as I am at the end because of these beautiful, expansive conversations that I get to have. And I'm at work right now. It's just crazy.
It's amazing. Well, you hold a beautiful container for it. So
Mm, thank you. I received that. So let's dive in. I'm eager to hear how you are saying yes to yourself in this season.
this is such a great question. And I think before I dive in, it's wonderful as a woman to be able to not feel guilty for saying yes to ourselves. I feel like that's just inherently something you have to be apologetic, but to step into that. And this year I've really said yes to myself because I have a book that's out, but I've embraced like all parts of me, the dark, the shadow, the light, the parts of my journey, the unhealed parts of me that maybe I unintentionally cause pain onto people, and then the healed parts to where I'm like finding, reconnecting back to my light. And I write very vulnerably about this. And I have just, there's this Greek goddess, Akeso, and I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Akeso. And I found her when I was at like rock bottom in 2020. I've had a few rock bottoms in my life, but this was another rock bottom. And I thought it was so beautiful because she's the goddess of the process of healing, not the cure.
Oh, I love her.
I mean, love her. We love her. So
Let's have her on the podcast.
yeah, right. So I've just really embraced that, and parts of me that I used to be ashamed of or fearful of or just being messy and not a people pleaser. I used to be a people pleaser to a deep fault, and I was sacrificing a lot of me and my soul and just putting myself out there and being unafraid, knowing that I might not be for everybody, but if I will find my people too, that can connect with that. And that's been very liberating. And I have found deep freedom as a person with that.
Oh my gosh. That is so gorgeous. And it has taken my heart by surprise because I would not have gathered this language by reading your bio. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just took my earrings off, listener, because like I'm nodding my head and they're banging into my face. And I know that now I'm completely plugged into this conversation.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so generous, so gorgeous. Thank you for that. I would really love to hear a little bit about your journey in moving through that and also documenting it for the whole world to
Right.
read, since that's what we want. We want lots of people to read it. I feel like, and I'll speak for myself, not all women, but I feel like when we're looking at those things that we're not proud of, or we would consider our shadow side or some dark thing that we don't like to give any attention to, because if we do, it could eat us. It could destroy us. If I ever said that out loud, it would completely crush me. Oh my gosh, I can't. And of course, as we know, when we're doing this work and taking that brave, courageous, inspired action, we realize that when we do let it out, it actually loses all of its power and does not crush us. And, the opposite, I think, happens with our dreams. We don't speak our dreams out loud because we're afraid somebody else will crush them because they're small and don't have water and sunshine yet. But actually, when we share them, they get bigger. Thoughts grow as they are shared. So I would really love to hear how your process was.
Well, it's been a very long journey, and I do just like to, especially with a lot of women listeners, just, some stuff might that I have an assault that I have had to overcome in my life, and it does. If you've had to endure this, I'm so sorry, and it is painful, and conversations can trigger things in ourselves. But I also like to say, like, I think it's so important that we have these conversations
Yes.
and that we have a little bit of a brave heart. And I'll
Yeah.
be mindful too of what I share, but also just noticing like what our triggers are and how can we, those are always the biggest lesson of when things arise, why am I feeling that way? And then it just kind of shows us, it gives us a gentle little light of where we still need to heal or where maybe we have not even stepped into the path of healing.
Right. I appreciate your sensitivity to that as well. And I welcome you to not censor yourself if you felt led to say something. And on the other side of the conversation, if you have second thoughts, then we can just edit it then.
Well, I'm an open book, so okay.
Okay.
Well, it's been a long road. I'm 40 now, 41 now, and I was 19 years old. I was a college student in Arizona, and I went to bed one night and I thought I was, as I did, very fortunately thinking I was very safe in my home, and I wasn't, unfortunately. And someone entered my apartment, and I was very, very violently and repeatedly sexually assaulted and beaten and nearly killed. And you know, it's weird because I was so young. Now, I think I've had like levels of grief that I didn't realize
Sure.
how I've processed it. He ended up getting away and I never saw his face, and so it was a cold case for 7 years. So I was just living in this fear and the unknown and keeping it a secret. I didn't tell anybody. It was all over the news. I worked with detectives. There were no leads, so I packed up and I moved to California to try to start fresh at the beach. And
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody about it. And I thought that that was like the brave thing to do in a way to like step into myself. Probably at the time thinking I was saying yes to myself because I'm not the victim. I'm Ashley, and
Right.
it was really scary, numbing that long. And finally he was caught through a DNA match in our national DNA database. And he's in prison for nearly 138 years. So he can't harm anybody else again,
That's
which
appropriate.
it's a blessing, it is. I just always was in fear of the next person that he was hurting, and to know he cannot do that to anybody. I got some peace, and it started, it really helped empower my healing journey. I would say, I had found yoga in the time in between when I didn't have closure, and yoga saved my life because it helped get
Mm.
me sober and clear and like, you know, at a time when I was self-medicating so deeply to not feel the pain. And that's where I kind of come into like the people along the way that I've hurt. When you don't heal trauma, and this is what I tell people, if we don't heal it, like not only do we bring in more darkness and harm into our lives because we're living from that space of pain, but we also are unintentionally many times causing pain on others, people that we
Mm.
love. And so it's very important that we heal that. And so it's been a long journey for me. I now do advocacy work, and I'm a mother. And so, I do work to try to tighten DNA collection laws state to state. And it's really become kind of like my life's purpose to be able to take such a hard, dark, time of hell. I mean, really, I felt like I had to scrape myself out of the depths of hell at times,
For sure.
I am now. And not every day is perfect, as you know. The healing journey is very not straight. It's up and down
Right.
and around the bend, but just being able to really be proud of myself for how far I've come, because there's like so many different layers there. If you can relate to that, some going through something, or if a listener can, like we also have to be very proud of the courage that we have to heal our wounds, because we all have stories.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I'm, of course, well, I'm not even going to say, of course, I'm so sorry that that was your experience. I've had similar experiences, but not by strangers. and not by anybody that was hiding. So I just thought I should hide. Obviously, if you don't think that was wrong and I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, I must be bad. I must have done something. So I'm so sorry. It's awful that that happened to you. I really applaud, celebrate, honor the work that you have turned this into and the progress that you see. And even if momentum is slow, there's progress. We were talking a little bit before we hit record about even things that are inconvenient or a bummer are 1,000 times better than the situation we moved from that got us to this inconvenient scheduling situation.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm so, it breaks my heart and I'm so sorry for what you've had to endure. And it scares me because I know so many women that I never would have known until I stepped into this, but it's
Mm,
alarming the number of women that this happens to. And I remember when, I started speaking about it. Trial ended in 2016, and then I started publicly like sharing my story. And it was before the Me Too movement, and then the Me Too movement happened, which I thought that was nice to touch the surface, but
right.
it went away as quick as it came. And then I felt like people were kind of rewounded in a way, and then there was no support, and they don't,
Right.
like, and now what? Like, how do we collectively heal, and how do we know that, saying yes to myself is like lifting that shame. Like, it's not, your fault. It's not my fault. And this can be a heavy topic, but I think it's so important that we can just say, like, be free of that shame. Like, that nothing was caused by anything that we ever did. And I feel like that's been a key point into my healing. And, it helps me find good relationships because I'm unafraid to just be fully. That doesn't define us, what happens, but it
Right.
does change you. It does. It does impact you. So just being liberated to not have to hide in the shadows of it has been very freeing.
Right. It's fascinating too. I've actually been thinking about these situations over the past few months, and I'm not sure what exactly brought it up, but I've been thinking, you know what? I think it has a lot to do with this podcast, actually, and having a microphone and using my voice and realizing that people are listening and realizing that there's a responsibility in having a platform, but my responsibility is not to make that guy feel any better about his bad behavior.
Right.
And me talking about anything I please that is true that
Right.
happened to me, I'm allowed to talk about it, and me talking is not what makes it wrong. I would be delighted if I had nothing to talk about, but
Right.
that is not the case. So, this shift in perception, even you mentioned the Me Too movement and that the movie that was made, she said, after it about the two reporters that, broke the story, which is also silly. Like they didn't break the story. Like the story has been happening forever,
Forever.
right? And to watch the characters portrayed of how just how impacted negatively impacted their lives were because of a situation that they were placed in by a really bad person, and just this systemic environment that makes the woman wrong. Like, if the first question is, well, did you tell anybody? It's like,
Right.
that's not an appropriate question. And what was I wearing is also not an appropriate question. And was I in someone's hotel room? And like, none of those are
None of that matter.
appropriate questions.
Oh, and it's all irrelevant. It's so interesting because I had the most extreme. I didn't want to go back to trial because it had been so many years. I was terrified. It was all on DNA evidence. And I found out I was shockingly pregnant with my daughter. I have a son and a daughter. And when I found out that I was having a girl, I called the prosecutor and I'm like, let's go.
You're such a queen.
But she gave me that strength because it took me out of me and it made it about her and everybody else, and so had to testify. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, and the most horrible thing, and it doesn't feel good to put someone in prison either. Like, it's the dichotomy of it is just, it's inexplainable. I almost felt like I was watching a movie, a really bad one from
Yep.
above. I felt this cannot be my life. I would say that, like, how is it?
Mhm.
I would just place my hand on my belly when I would be too scared to testify. But I remember I was in the middle of the night in my apartment asleep, and the defense attorney is questioning me, making sure, what did I do? What was I wearing the night before? Questioning my sexual history. And I remember thinking, my goodness, if they can ask a girl that was dead asleep in her bed these questions, what do they say? And it pissed me off, if I can be honest.
Mhm.
But that anger, I felt like the wrath of God come through my veins, and it gave me
Totally.
power to testify and then to speak about it, because I now know my forensic nurse. She was an angel, and she says, I hope I can say this on here, but she's like,
You can say anything you want.
you are butt naked, walking through the street, you still, no means no, and it should never happen to you. It's irrelevant. And I'm like, heck yeah.
Right.
Shifting that. Like, there's so much, it's so complex, but like, it's very hard when you know someone. And I have great empathy for you and for everybody that goes through that, because then that is a different level than, even the stranger is terrifying, but knowing someone, there's a different emotional layer, and just the shame. It's like, lift that, because nothing is your fault. It does not matter. Like, none of that matters. And it shouldn't even be part of the conversation, frankly, ever, ever.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I am so with you. And it's interesting, like you said, this whole dichotomy of what you're experiencing, and it's an out of body experience and very much an in body experience, because it's all your mindset. Even you were so certain that you were not going to testify, and
Right.
then you found out you were having a daughter, and like you shifted, like all of that was an inside job, right?
Right.
And this, like I said, I've been reflecting on this, and perhaps in anticipation of this fabulous conversation, which I welcome and honor, but and also why I keep pausing in between questions, because I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't realize we were going here, but I'm here for it. Um, and it happened to me so many times
Mm.
that it's, I don't want to say comical, because I know what I mean when I say that, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody else's experience, but for me, that part, I know I have been sexually assaulted many, many, many times by many, many, many people.
Mm.
And to say, like, yeah, but that's not what I want to say is, now I have a voice, and now I'm not discounting the experience, but it's also so many times that it feels comical. And I don't, there's obviously a lot of healing that is required, because there's no feeling that comes when I share that story. I think there's something that happens. I think for you, like, you're speaking from a scar, not a wound, because you've done the healing. I think I am probably speaking from, let's make this lighter, but also talk
Right.
about other people's bad behavior, instead of how this has, affected my life. How has it affected my marriages? How has it affected my now singleness? Like, I think
Right.
there's a whole lot to unpack in there.
There is. And even that you have the bravery and the courage to share that, the people that are listening, there's so many, it makes me tear up, because I speak with so many victims or survivors, whatever you want to call it, but people that have endured this. And it's heartbreaking, and so but I'm also why I like to share my story. And I said a little prayer to the universe, God, spirit, whatever you want to say, before I sent the email out, and introducing my book to the world. And it was very vulnerable, because even though I speak and I go and testify to legislators, this was like the most raw look at like the shadow and the light, the darkness, and the journey of healing. It's lifelong, but like I also speak about like different modalities, and yoga was really instrumental in my healing. Even like getting out in nature and connecting, walking, or I turned into running. I went to herbal medicine school in 2020, and this was at a time when I didn't feel, I was so disconnected from my body
Ah,
for so long and like disgusted with it. It felt foreign. I felt like I was just like living in a shell, and this was not mine anymore. And yoga, I remember I got that first glimpse of finding that power and that light and that reconnection to my body and like taking care of
mm,
myself. And it was really beautiful. And that was early on. But 2020, fast forward all those years, I hit other rock bottoms and hard, because that's the journey, right? The hero's journey of healing
yeah.
is hard, man. It's really freaking hard, but it's also really beautiful, And I found herbal medicine school, and it was at a time when I didn't care about like what I ate, taking care of my body. I could go like a day without eating, or I would just eat whatever, like it didn't matter to me. And it wasn't because I was trying to have like an eating disorder. It's because
Right.
disconnected. Okay. Like completely disconnected from myself. And like herbal medicine school got me into the kitchen, and then I'd be like, ooh, I'm gonna make this like fire cider home remedy that's been done for like centuries, that can cure the cold and the flu, whether you live here or you're in Kenya. Like you can make this everywhere. How cool. And then cooking medicinally and herbally. And so I became like obsessed with it. And then what I didn't realize was that it had planted the seed of just like the self-love. I started to nurture my body, and like I love to cook now, and I love to eat yummy foods. And it's weird how that can kind of tap into like a sensuality of just reconnection back to yourself. And I think that's what the biggest thing that I want people to know is that not only can you, survive, like no one wants to live a life of survival, right? And a lot of times
Right.
we get stuck in the pain because it's so heavy, and being a victim, it is. But I always tell people like we have to redefine ourselves again. Like that doesn't define us. And we have to choose to exit the pain over and over and over. Feel it, heal it, exit, And so what you're talking about too,
Right.
it's a survival mechanism to detach, because some stuff is
Yeah.
too painful. And I get that. But
Yeah.
also when you start to do, just taking care of yourself again, and like caring
Right.
about you, like saying yes to yourself, and like in that way, nurturing yourself, like it opens up a gateway of healing that is very profound.
Oh my gosh. I love you so much. I
I love you
love this
too.
conversation. It's so for me. Like, I love that the podcast listener gets in on this,
Oh.
and I'm sure that they can also recognize I
Mhm.
sound a little bit different because I'm on this growth edge right now in real time. I think, well, I'm so grateful for you because God totally brought you here now, obviously, for your big mission. And specifically, right here for me, because I think that it's been very new for me to be finding my voice
Mhm.
and using my voice. And I've always used my voice, but with somebody else's message. And so
Ah,
what I am finding is I'm finding my own message.
that's
Like it's,
powerful.
thank you. It's my voice. It's my voice. And so it's, we talked a little bit earlier. I mean, it transformed my marriage so much that it transitioned out of a marriage. And I'm owning my dreams. And I know that the mantra of the universe is more. And so as soon as a dream is realized, boom, okay, good, because I've got another one. And I don't even wait until the manifestation comes. There's more. I have a long list, and those are just the ones I know about, and there will be more tomorrow. And I also know that as amazing as this feels and as new as it feels, and how, oh my gosh, liberating it is to be the only person who is in charge of how I spend my day, especially on the times that Amelia's with her dad, then I really am the only person in charge of how I spend my day. And when someone asks me about dating or asks me about like what's next, I'm so disinterested and so unavailable to even go there that I think it's also, now you're my therapist, I'll pay you for this.
I love it. I
Um,
don't know if we're paying, but sure,
right.
let's go.
um, it's making me like my body is changing. I'm holding on to weight in ways that I never have before. And I understand word on the street is when you get older, your body changes, blah, blah, blah. There's something else going on that is happening for me because I'm going to pay attention because I love my clothes and I want them to fit. And I know that it is so intertwined with being connected to my body and this sensuality and sexuality. And I'm allowed to say this because this is my microphone and my platform. And I lived in a 22-year marriage without intimacy.
Right. Right.
And that is a mind fuck.
What? Well, that is very, I really appreciate this conversation. It's not one that you hear often, and I didn't
No,
have to look to,
it's
I didn't
not.
have anyone to look to. I didn't know that you could heal essentially. And I did put at the very last chapter, it's like the after whatever, after the epilogue, it's an afterword. And it's titled Sexual Healing. And it's not about sex, it's about healing yourself and like really finding that self-love again. Because I was like that too. I remember I told my friend, so he is just incredible. He has been one of my biggest mentors. He went to Iraq after 9/11, lost
Wow.
both of his legs, lost a lot of his friends. He came back, Wounded Warrior Project, like saved his life. And then he found yoga. And so he's this incredible yoga teacher. He'll take his prosthetics off and he like pushes up into handstand. He's just a warrior.
Wow.
And he teaches people to speak. His name's Dan Nevins. You guys should look him up. He goes on weekend retreats with veterans. They come back and then he teaches them to share their story in 2 to 3 minutes. And the healing
Mm.
that comes from first just sharing. There is something that transforms in you when you can be like, whoa, this is really scary and vulnerable. And, but then it's so freaking liberating. And it's a little piece of that brokenness kind of heals back, or,
Yeah.
or you begin to release a little bit of that. And it can spark more curiosity of like, well, what's more to heal? Like there's more. But, he told me like, in order to heal, you have to feel. He would tell me this over.
Mm.
When you talk to people, the hard part is you're going to have to go back to that place. You're going to have, if you're going to make an impact, you have to connect to it, which is also
Mm.
scary. Right. And he said, but then I want you to take a deep breath when you get done, like root your feet into the ground, look around and see how far you've come. You're not in that, like, it's so powerful, So I've taken that with me, but I remember vividly talking with him and I'm like, I will never enjoy sex. I hate it. It's just horrible. It's, you're married. It's an obligation it felt because I was so unhealed still.
Yeah.
And it shone like I had a big light. And then I went from, after my divorce and getting in a very unhealthy relationships to where I just didn't care, and
Mm-hmm.
that's so sad when I look back and I reflect like how I don't recognize that person that I was because I was
Mm.
allowing myself to get into very unhealthy, very, very unhealthy relationships. And then when I went to herbal medicine school, it sounds so weird, but
It's
I
awesome. I love it.
found this like connection back to self sensuality. And now have a loving partner that treats me, that is on the healing journey, like he's supportive of it and he's very sweet. And that feels weird when you're not used to, or when you're either closed down or you're used
For
to the
sure.
opposite. You have to be like, okay, love, like it's sacred. And so that's what I like to think about. I'm like, sacredness, starting to care about yourself, but it starts within us. Like we have to do that work in order to have people meet. If you do want a relationship that is like that, we have to, the hard part is we have to do the work, and it's like, and then the more we start to like dip our toes into it and we start to heal these very scary, dark parts, very scary. It's very hard to. but it's very beautiful, and then that's why I love that
Yes.
green goddess, because I'm like, she's us, like
She
she's every one
is.
of us, she's you, she's me, she's everyone listening, like we don't need like this quick fix, like
Right.
take this pill and you'll be fixed, or just avoid it. It's like this very messy,
Yeah.
very raw journey of healing that is the continuum, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. It's really fascinating because like I'm a healing junkie. Like if something feels shadowy, like let's get a flashlight in there. Like I want to know. I want to know better so I can do better, right?
Right.
And this recent trajectory that has gotten me to this place has been very much for me, but the benefits are quantifiable outside of my body, right? So I have clients, I have podcast downloads, I have a fabulous daughter who's living in freedom and delight, and I live in freedom and delight. And I invite people to my home to, you know, make flower crowns out of peony. I mean, the whole thing is so dreamy and beautiful and real and everything I wanted. And my clothes are on for all of those things.
Hmm.
And this is very different. Um, and it's, yeah, like I said, sorry, I'm not a good interviewer today because I'm like,
Fantastic.
I'm
No, that's me.
like healing in real time. Um,
I'm
and
so proud of
Oh
you.
my gosh, I'm so grateful for you for holding the space for me. It's a fantastic because there's no one is going to, well, no one's going to know if I'm doing this work or not except for me. And it is such, like you said, sacred, such a sacred opportunity for me to say yes to myself in a
Mm.
way that is going to be so expansive and beautiful and safe
Right.
because I make it that way for me. And then whoever the lucky person that gets that version of me.
Right. And it's so fascinating though, because I also read something recently that I thought was really cool, but it says you don't have to be fully healed in order to find that though. Like you
Oh,
just
totally. Yeah.
opening the awareness, but
Yeah.
that's we have to do the work. We can't expect someone to step into our lives and it's never going to happen. Like it's just not going to happen. Like we have to do the work ourselves. And then that's like what you're saying. But like, look at all the areas. This is the coolest thing ever for me because I love like Dr. Wayne Dyer. I like Gabby Bernstein, all these people,
Yep.
super attractor. And like, look what you have created. Like, you've done this in every area of your life. And like, this also is like a really exciting opportunity for you to do it like within you too, and like, and continue. And just see, I don't know, things will shift. They will radically shift. And it just started for me of being like caring about myself. That sounds
Mhm.
so crazy, but like I realized I just didn't for decades, like I really genuinely didn't. And then now it's like, wow, like, they say you're going to be with yourself the longest, so you better like who you're with. And so I'm like, yeah. And I have a healer. I've seen every healer. Okay. Like you're talking about, and she's a shamanic healer. She's really cool. I think your last episode, well, one of the
Oh,
last,
yes, yes, yes. Yep. Jarena.
yeah, she was great. But my healer was she's very, she held a lot of space and she moved a lot of energy and helped me really like, find the healing source within me. But she also was very like, I think you need to do the shadow work on yourself. And I'm like, shadow work? This was when I wasn't ready for that a few years ago. I'm like, I'm perfectly like, I don't have that. And then,
Right.
it's just the front. And then I'm like, oh. And she said something beautiful. She said, you don't even have to call people and apologize. If you think of something that like you can just send them your prayer of, I'm sorry. I love you
Like
for,
energetically.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's
Awesome.
something but it really got me, it kind of freed up. It made me see like, and we're all imperfect, right? And how
Yeah.
great that we can just say we've made mistakes or, we're sorry. Like even a girl that moved with me from Arizona to California. And when I was hiding it, I started just drinking so severely. I like would go to the hospital and not remember it and
Mm.
self-medicating. And it was so destructive. And, I think of the pain that she had to endure holding space for not only a friend that this happened to, because assaults ripple, they break down not just us, communities, friends, families. That's the job of it. It breaks down the structure of safety of everything, and I just, it was really beautiful because I took my kids out to see now her kids in California, and I was able to share with her one night, and we were both crying. I'm like, I'm so sorry for the pain that I've caused you, and to be able to say, oh, like, I am sorry, and genuinely mean that. It's a big thing. And I hope that I can teach my kids to own. I'm like, we're going to make mistakes. We are going to, and that's part of it. It's how we grow and how we address it. But it was very healing for me, not just her, for me in my soul, to like forgive myself and to like own it and then like lift it and like release it, it's liberating. And so,
Right, it's repair.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So it's powerful.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, and I'm remembering why I've started thinking about these situations, because I work with an energy healer who's amazing. She's been on the podcast a few times, Rachel Jackson, and she had me do these practices where I went back into those situations where I was at the time waiting for a grown up to
Yeah.
show up and do what grown-ups do. And I was able to visualize like me, adult Wendy, going back and getting little Wendy. And it
Yeah.
was like, that's why I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter about the assault. This is the cool part. Like, I went in and I am a
Uh,
badass, and it was liberating and amazing. And it felt so good. And until this conversation and a conversation I had yesterday with a friend, which of course now is making sense, I thought that that part was the work.
right.
But it was, and so I was excited. I'm like, look at me, I did the work and it was fun, awesome. But it was, now I get to, I get to show up for now adult Wendy
Right.
and say it's okay. And that was the the unsolicited assault and the wishing every day for the intimacy, like those two sides of that pendulum swing. It's okay. It's okay that it happened, and we don't have to stay there, and we can create something new and beautiful.
I love that. And I love that for you and for all of us. And I think that's important. And that's why it's so hard because I feel like there's a love, we have to find a balance, okay?
Yeah.
Like of talking about things and healing things. And then we have to like find freedom to be like, okay, and I don't want to live in the victimhood. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yep.
Like this, it's powerful though when you can do that because you do have to feel it. You do have to heal it. And there's grief, there's deep grief. And, I imagine in your situation too, it's like this loss of like innocence and just who we are. It's sad when you look at it. But then also it's like we have to be so proud of where we've come and that we do have the resources and we do have the awareness and we do have platforms like this incredible podcast to have these conversations. I'm telling you, I did not have anyone to turn to listen to have hope that maybe I would heal from it. Oh, someone else felt like that about their body, like, because that was never talked about. It's very uncomfortable, but that's what I was saying in the beginning. I'm like, I'm owning these. Like, my book was the most vulnerable I've ever been, and it's hard to read at parts. And I don't like to reread it really because it's so from the soul.
Right.
Things that are very delicate to talk about, but and I'm grateful to you for being a safe space. Not for all your listeners, there are a lot that are going to be impacted by this because they have a connection with you, and now
Yeah.
you're unveiling this, and it gives them that freedom to unveil. Like I can't tell you how many people now reach out with me and they say, this was 60 years ago. I've never told a person, and
Mm.
they tell me they'll write me a letter, and it's just this like connection of being heard and seen and having a safe space, but also knowing, okay, it is work. That's why they call it the healing work. It is freaking
Right.
work, but like it's so beautiful. And like it means
Yeah.
you're really alive and you're living. And there's a Van Morrison song I'm obsessed with. It's the healing game. And he just says like, sing it out loud, sing it like you're proud, sing the healing
Mm.
game. It's like that. But it's like, yeah, we don't need to be we don't need to walk all over. And, I can overshare sometimes to people and they're like, wow, that's a lot, So,
You're like, "So did you want fries with that?"
it's like, I don't know how to small talk anymore. I don't
I
know.
know.
It's really, it can be, if you're not in the right crowd, like if you're not with your people, it's a lot. So I totally, and I respect that. And I get that. I have a lot, but if there's something that's very freeing when you can say that, and then to look to someone and say, man, that gives me hope. Maybe that's the spark I need to know I can feel like that. It is possible. And so that's why I'm grateful to you to have this conversation here, because women need to know it is possible.
Yes.
It's
And
possible.
they need to know, like I said before about, you don't wanna utter this thing because you think it's gonna crush you. I just uttered it.
Right.
Nobody spontaneously combusted. You, in fact, just went, shared another beautiful nugget as if I just, handed you your glass of iced tea. So and it wasn't like, I'm not saying that like I don't feel like anything was discounted. I'm saying that everything that we think is going to happen if we let this awful thing out of our body doesn't happen.
Correct.
It's just healing and it's beautiful. And now there's space. There's
Right.
space for the healing. There wasn't space for it before because it was filled with shame and frustration and whatever else now is making my pants too tight, whatever, all those things.
Well, it does. I love that. It's beautiful. You have to, again, I always think of my friend Dan, in order to heal it, you have to feel it. And then you have to let that SHIT go, like then you
Yeah.
like, okay, let it go. Whew. That was a lot. Now I have to really, I've had to train myself because my work, I'm having to go and it's really vulnerable and it's a really lonely job. Honestly, like on paper, it probably looks, wow, that's really cool. She has this foundation and now she goes and she testifies and it feels like brave in the book, but then I open up into it and it's really hard. Like I'm on nonprofit budget, so I'm not staying at the Four Seasons, right? I'm
Mm.
flying, leaving my kids and going to somewhere in West Virginia where I don't know a soul. I'm staying at, the roadside hotel. I go and I have 3 minutes to go door to door knocking and share my sad story, and then like why this is important. You pour your heart out, and then a lot of times the bill gets crushed or people are condescending, and then the bill dies, and you're just like, it's like this reopening, right? But I had to learn,
Yes.
hey, and my healer told me this. I want you to think of it, and not this is kind of goes back to what you're saying though, and it's not to cover it up, but she's like, think of it as your work hat. I want you to put your work hat on.
Right.
And once you get home from that trip, no matter the outcome, I want you to take that off and then put your mom hat on or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just there's something powerful about being able to be like, and let's move on.
Well, right, because you can't deactivate a thought, you can only activate a new one. So you're just going to move into this situation that feels better, and not because you are trying to bury that shame or something. Like, you're doing the work, queen, and you don't have to do it 24 hours a day. And to give yourself permission to segment that is amazing,
Right.
because you've written the book. You were earlier today at the state house. Like, you're in these conversations all the time, and you have school pickup and you have to make dinner, and there are all of these things happening at the same time. And I can imagine that it feels like a very heavy lift if you are feeling like you're the only one doing this. So how are you doing this? How are you knocking on doors in West Virginia? My gosh, like, do you need help? What do we do?
I do. Even the support, it's interesting because they really do listen. Legislators, is people don't think they listen to their constituents. So, I'm trying to really, right now, I'm like a one woman show. Like, even before my book launch, I was like researching how to build a landing page, at like midnight and like doing it's very grassroots. So I'm really grateful for your platform and, a lot of it's word of mouth that's helped spread but with DNA Justice Project, it's kind of the same. And so if you want to follow me on Instagram, that sounds little, but I have like really worked hard. I'm almost at 800 at this point. No, I'll be at over 1,000. Okay. So it's my manifest.
Congratulations.
So it's been slow and steady, but it's been authentic. And that's what I thought about. And you're saying you're having your authentic voice. I used to teach yoga. I used to own yoga studios. And I remember I was speaking to a friend about this the other day. It was so interesting because when I first started teaching, I would be like, wow, that teacher's class, the back studio could hold 100 mats. And I'd be like, he's packed. So I'd go to his class and then I would like take little nuggets and then I would try to like be him, right? And it
Right.
wasn't landing. My class was still
Right.
not very full. And I'm like, why? I did like the same thing he did, but because it's not authentic, right? And then so I started
Right.
to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna step. It's really scary to be myself, but you know what? I'm just gonna be me and teach how what feels good and then say the messages that feel authentic. And
Mm.
guess what? You find your people. You're not for everyone. And that's
Right.
one teacher always said, if you're for everyone, you're doing something wrong. And if you're
Exactly.
not for everyone, then you're living your truth. And that was like very cool and liberating. But anyways, back to that. I've been finding my people, whether it's in, survivors, whether it's the forensic science community, people that work in jails, law enforcement. I have a very different crowd of people that follows the work, but every word of support, every letter that I'll keep people updated on what states I'm working in. Here's a template, reach out to your legislator, every
Mhm.
phone call. Like it just inspires me to keep going. And what I've realized is so many people are passionate about this. They just didn't realize. A lot of people think we're already collecting DNA if you're arrested for a felony, right? But
Right. So tell us about your project and because I would have thought that too. I mean, because I watched Law and Order and they
right,
got the bad guy. So what's happening?
right. It works well. So 19 states. So I won't bore you all. I want to break it down.
No, Boris.
Part of my foundation, the purpose is to educate the public and policymakers on the value of forensic DNA and DNA technology advancements in the criminal justice system. So all 50 states, if you are convicted of a felony offense, you are supposed to swab the cheek and upload it. We have a national DNA database. It's called the Combined DNA Index System, and you put it in there. So that's at conviction. The problem is a lot of people are not getting actually convicted for felonies. But what my perpetrator was caught on, there are 19 states. We just got this passed in Texas in 2023, my home state. He was caught in California. They have this. So you go from the red states to the blue states. It's a mixed bag of people that have this law because not only does it help catch the right people, it exonerates people very quickly. So
Mm.
at the point of felony arrest, we take DNA in my home state and, California, 19 states. 31 collect for violent offenses. Now, the reason that this is important is, as I said, a lot of people are not getting the conviction point of a felony, so we're never swabbing their cheek. The most prolific serial rapist in Colorado was caught through a felony level forgery, not through the assaults of the young girls. So we know a lot of them, they're repeat violent offenders, and they're getting caught for these lower level crimes along the way. So we have to swab early. And, there was a Supreme Court ruling that says it's a very just and reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. And so I advocate to try to get it passed state to state, but it's shockingly very hard. So I need voices. Like I depend on, the support of people in other states because I need boots on the ground voices of people that live there reaching out to their legislators saying this is important.
Right.
A woman that I used to work with, her daughter was very brutally murdered and she had advocated for this law. It's Katie's law in a lot of states, New Mexico. And she said, I've never heard of anybody harmed by our DNA database, but I have met numerous mothers whose children would still be alive had we had this law. And we have
Right.
case after case after case. So
Right. It's ridiculous what's happening.
it's crazy. And
Yeah.
they're listening to everything. We were talking before you were recording, like my TV, I was talking about hot sauce, like, in the house.
Right.
My TV pulled up like sriracha, and I'm like, well, first of all, if you're from Texas, that's not hot sauce. But second of all,
Yeah.
someone's listening to me, and the DNA database is very protected. It's just numbers. It doesn't have any coding information except for male or female. But
And who cares? Don't do anything wrong, and it won't matter if we know your name.
you're preaching to the choir. If only it
Uh,
was easy. It's very hard to get past. Shockingly hard.
all right. So let's change the narrative about that because
Okay.
because our
Well,
words are important, right?
true. Help me.
So, like in the past, it's been really hard,
Okay.
but change is coming. And I feel good about this work. And every person I talk to is on board and thinks it's great. And change is coming. And a new there are new people being elected all the time. And there's a groundswell of people that are wanting a better a better community, that are wanting also to not have people that don't belong in jail. And this is a very easy, non invasive way to get important information into the hands of people that also care passionately about their job and doing the right thing. And I'm just glad that I'm a voice for this work. I'm glad that my Instagram is growing. I'm glad that I'm on podcast. I'm glad that I wrote this book. I'm doing my own healing, but the ripple effects of this work, I can't even quantify that. And it's going to be amazing, even as we're moving toward this every single day. But won't it be amazing when all 50 states have this as a law or a bill, whatever it's called, and people are let out of jail and people are put in jail and there's
Oh,
closure and healing? So let's tell that story.
wow. Okay, now you're my therapist because I do that so much. I tell my kids, like, you had the best day at school, like it already happened, like we had talked
Yeah.
about. This is interesting because I shut it down because I always talk about how hard it is and
Yeah.
how
No
possible.
more.
Oh my gosh, you've
No
just taken
more.
that felt like I could take a deep breath in this work for the first time just hearing you say that. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
You are up to big work in the world and you're beautiful. So people want to look at you while you are saying these things that are changing the world. Use that for good, which you are. It's beautiful.
thank you. That really is awesome. Just a good, it's like a light bulb went off in my head, like how much the power of my thoughts with this work. It's always like, oh, it's like exciting to go. Like I get that first energy when I walk into the Capitol and then I'm like, oh, it's so hard. Like, no
Right?
more.
Right? And now you're inviting these lawmakers. Like,
Right.
I'm so, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited to invite you into this movement that will definitely be my legacy and maybe your legacy as well. I would love for you to partner with me in this good work.
Love
Like,
that.
it's all an invitation, it's all good. It's all, of course, all of your friends are going to sign this also. Won't it be amazing that you're the first person that brought it to your whatever room where you
Right?
sign stuff? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like you are creating advocates, which of
Awesome.
course you are.
Oh, I love it. That's really inspiring. Thank
It's
you.
so good. It's my pleasure. I mean, that's the beauty of community, right? Because I have no resistance around what your process is. I don't even know like what
Hey,
room it is that they go in and say, "Hey, I thought of something." Like, so I can, sometimes we tell ourselves, well, if she really knew what this was, like she would agree with me that it's hard, when actually someone outside of us can see it more clearly because, they say you can't read the label from inside the bottle. You can't.
right.
So, what states, I mean, I don't want you to have to name all 30 something of them, 20 something of them that aren't that need this to be a law, that aren't the 19 states. Can you name 5 or 6 of those in case a
Yeah.
listener is from one of those states?
Yeah.
And we will, of course, we'll link everything in the show notes so that everyone that's listening that knows somebody in these states, and we can list all of the states that still need this to pass. um
Thank you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
of course.
Yeah, and on my website, again, I made my website off like a free YouTube. So I'm working on
Awesome.
it. It's gotten
I can
better.
help you with that too.
It's getting better, but it does have the updated DNA laws. But off the top, I have legislation this year in Oregon. That's going to be, it takes a little bit of time and education, but Oregon would be so awesome. Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Kentucky, West Virginia, Arizona, where I was actually assaulted, does not have this law, and my guy would still be out there, today harming people had he been arrested there. So I thank God every day he was caught in California because they do have this law.
Right. I know a girl that lives in Massachusetts with a really big mouth and a microphone.
I love that. I love
She's
that.
me.
I know. So, I mean, I actually have met some really incredible victims from there. And there's a woman, Karen Anderson, she's on the news there, and she has been just a force of the greatest good. Talk about someone like you using her platform. She has not given up hope on these two survivors. They just caught the guy who's being extradited back to Massachusetts after 40 plus years. So these brave women never gave up. So Massachusetts is very special to me for many reasons, and I'm excited for these women to get their justice soon.
Yes.
And so I love it up there. And the more we can get, what I've noticed is people like to do what they're around. So like with Texas now, every state that touches Texas already did this. So when I would go into legislators, I'm like, every state that touches us has this law, and so it made them more inclined to want to do it.
Yes.
On the East Coast and the Upper West Coast that don't have it, and so I'm really trying to get, if I can get a couple, then more people be like, oh, okay, our neighbor's doing this. So that's the goal.
Right. And then how fun also to encourage somebody to be the first.
Right.
Like you could be the hub of this spoke of the middle of our country. This is your legacy.
And to kind of close this, when we did this in Texas, the first year we closed over 230 cold cases. The second year there was 640 cold cases closed through this law alone. So
Wow.
it's really exciting. I also advocate for like technology. You can test DNA in 90 minutes with rapid DNA. 90 minutes you can eliminate or identify. So I advocate for that, because you look at everything, how we connect with people, technology is advanced. Like, why are we not doing it in the criminal justice system? Well, we're working on it. So that's exciting to me too. But there's a lot. I love people want to follow my social media or check out my website. And if you're interested, like I actually call people. So I had this grad student from Kentucky. She was like, I'm interested in forensics, and I just got off the phone with her yesterday after just chatting it up, and she now wants to get involved, boots on the ground. So I love that. I love to connect with people that are interested in this. So reach out.
Right. And that's such a brilliant connection too, like going to schools and speaking with their students that are about to go into these fields, and they're all there. They're all of voting age. They might live in a state.
They're passionate about it, and like it's really, I love the young forensic scientist women, especially. I just think they're really cool. I've met them all over, but like that they want to go into this. It's really interesting. They're very smart, and they have that enthusiasm with it, and they have a care, a lot of them personally, a story or that's gotten them into it that makes them really want to do this work. So it's really cool.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to meet you. I can't wait, because I already went to your flower crown workshop.
Yay.
That's like everything that you do is my dream. I was telling you before this, I looked at your place and I'm like, you're living the dream.
I am. One of the best compliments I ever got was before I moved here. My friend Indalisa was introducing me to somebody else in the room and said, "This is my friend Wendy. She's living the dream and she knows it."
I love it.
I just thought, oh, it's true. And I wasn't even living this dream yet, but I knew it was coming. So it's so good. I'm thrilled to be connected. I'm so happy. Everyone will follow you. We'll put it in the show notes. I can't wait to have you back. I have 1,000 ideas.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
What an honor to be on your show. You're a wonderful woman, a wonderful person, and we need more people. We need more women like you that have platforms like this that put out the good messages. So thank you for, believing in my story and sharing this out here. It really means a great deal to me. So
thank you, Ashley. I'm so excited.
Thanks
for being here.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.